Yeah, yeah, it's not a big
Okay,
deal.
yeah, that's cool. Oh, there it is. This meeting is being recorded. Uh, got it. Cool. All right, cool. Well, that
Cool.
was rocky, but so basically the idea of this is, and I'll go ahead and put this out there, and I'll probably put this in the what I actually post. Um, the idea, I actually am not sure what this is for, and you know what? Nobody may watch it, and that's cool. It may end up just being for my own catharsis.
Right.
Um, but especially like with the strike going on, and things have slowly come to a halt. Um,
Right.
just these moments of like having a one-on-one conversation with somebody else who is a creative and especially a fellow actor are really
Important.
nice.
Yeah.
And I've I've been doing this probably for about the same amount of time you have, and you've or maybe uh, longer. But because I'm a little bit older than you, but
Right.
you know, it's funny. I keep getting people come up to me and ask. In fact, somebody did it yesterday and today, same person, to say like, "How do I get started in all this?" And it's a really hard thing to answer.
Yeah, that's a tough because you and I talked about this while texting the other day, and
Yeah,
I don't think that there is like one way to get started.
there's
Really,
not.
like I know people that made like videos on YouTube and got started, and then I also know people who went to school like I did, and that kind of led to like open doors because really what you're paying for is not only the training but the connections.
Yep.
And then I know other people that were working on sets, and they needed somebody who did to stand in one day, or they needed somebody to say this one line because an extra didn't show up or something that had a speaking part, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden somebody was a day player.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Yep.
"Hey, I really enjoyed that. I think I might give this a try." I took acting classes, and then I know people who were just thrown in off the street
Yeah.
and were just so natural to it that it was
Yeah.
a little scary. But yeah, dude, I don't think there's one way to get started, and I think it's just like whatever your niche is.
Yeah.
Like you should just get started and run with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think like I fell in love with performing through like high school theater,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
that was the deal for me. I did one musical, and that was it. My dad kind of pushed me to do it because I decided I didn't really want to do sports anymore. That
Yeah.
not that I didn't enjoy sports. I was just like, I just kind of feel like I have more to offer. And God had really put some things on my heart. So I was like, I'm not going to do sports anymore. And he said, you're going to do something constructive. So I did theater, which was the
Yeah.
100% his idea. I didn't come up with it on my own. I think I was doing a lot like in church at the time, like playing instruments and doing like
Yeah.
human video drama. I think the pastor's kid kind of gets thrown into a lot.
Definitely.
So
Oh
he
yeah.
was, yeah. So
Um,
yeah, you get it. So
I mean, I'm not a pastor's kid, but I'm a pastor's nephew. So,
right, right,
pastor.
you absolutely understand. It's
Right. No.
almost no different, honestly. If
Yeah.
you're related to the pastor, you do
Definitely.
this.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, that was my phone going off.
Oh, you good?
But yeah, so I was doing that, and he was like, "Well, you seem to really brighten up whenever you do that kind of stuff." And so he went out to dinner one night and was like, "Hey, you should audition for the school musical." And I thought about it and thought, "Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but I'll figure it out." And I just went in. I did the first one. I did the audition. I had a blast. I made good friends. And then about two or three people into that, my choir director looked at me and was like,
Yeah.
you should really think about doing this in college. If for no other reason than I could get scholarship money, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't even aware that this was a thing that you could do in college. I didn't understand the pipeline of theater,
Yep.
and but I knew I loved doing it, and I hit the ground running after that, and that's how I got involved. But I really think whatever, if stunt work piques your interest, if it's singing, if it's dancing, like my girlfriend, she was a dancer, and she went to Point Park for dance, and she sings and is a wonderful actress. But that's how she got, that was her like gateway into performing and acting and everything that we do. What was dance. So I think whatever piques your interest uh is where you should go. How did you get involved?
Yeah. So actually, it's crazy because I know like so many people who started off playing football or like baseball, or and it's crazy you say that because some of my best friends that got into it in high school that are now doing it professionally were baseball players that just got kind of pulled in because the show needed more guys, or something. And one of my best buddies, Colin, what had no interest in theater, and ended up in that situation. The theater production needed more guys. He got pulled in and loved it, and ended up pursuing film. And he's in New York now. Yeah, do you know Colin Reese? He
I
does.
I don't, but the name sounds really familiar.
So he doesn't do a whole lot of acting nowadays. Like he started off doing film acting here in Atlanta, and then he got into locations for film
Okay.
and television. And so I think that's mainly what he does in New York now, is locations. So he's not doing a whole lot of acting now, but that was his story. But the way I got into it, um, I kind of always, it's funny. I thought this is where I get kind of, it's funny to talk to people about this stuff because most of them have some sort of um, moment in high school where somebody pushed them to do a play or something. And I kind of went into high school. I went to Woodland, and back when I went to Woodland, it was if anybody does watch this from Woodland, not knocking it, but it used to be a magnet school for the performing arts.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't see a lot of stuff there when I
Yeah,
first got like started out. Yeah, and I had lots
yeah,
of friends that went there that were probably younger than you, but you probably we probably have a lot
yeah,
of crossover from high school.
yeah, yeah. So I went there because of that. So I went in knowing that I was going to do theater. And I wanted to do swim team, and I wanted to do like baseball and basketball, but not if it was going to interfere with theater.
Yeah,
And I mean, as you probably figured out, like it's that's a rough schedule to mesh something like swim or baseball with a theater kid schedule. I mean, that's so I ended up mainly doing strictly theater in high school. But before that, what got me really was I went and saw there was a 1990, I want to say 6 or 97 film adaptation of Lost in Space, which there's a Netflix version of it now, but they did like a 90s um, theatrical version. I think I had not Sigourney Weaver, maybe I don't know, but anyway, I went and saw that, and I was like, man, that is so cool. I want to do that. Like, it started off as being
yeah.
a kid that saw like it started off being a kid that saw these people running around in space fighting, aliens, and so that I wanted to do that, and it kind of grew. It obviously grew much more into once I started realizing what that entailed. Then I started like I was a weird kid. I started studying like Stephen King stuff, and I was like, man, I want like Stand by Me is like my all-time favorite movie, which is based off a Stephen King novel.
Yep.
But
Great movie.
Stand
Great.
by Me is fantastic. Actually, my phone case has a Stand by Me. My phone case is Stand by Me. I've got a Stand by Me tattoo on my side. So, but really, so Lost in Space, I remember that being I remember going home after the movie, going to the movie theater and being like, Mom, I want to do that. Like that would be cool. And my mom, of course, was like, Yeah, okay, yeah, that's cute. And then I saw Stand by Me, and that really solidified it. And I was like, I want to do this. And back then, film was not as prevalent in Atlanta as it is now.
Right.
So obviously the logical steps would be to get into school and do community theater, high school theater. Now I know you're a theater guy. I will say I like theater and I love watching theater, but I much prefer acting for film. There's something about the process.
Yeah.
Performing in like this is a whole other
I
discussion.
I I too. Yeah. I've gotten there. So I like you know this, but for whoever might be listening, I went to NYU for theater. I studied theater and vocal performance for 3 years. I did my first year at Kennesaw State and then transferred it.
Hey,
Scholarship. I stayed there for the remainder of my education. I graduated, and the day I graduated, and I'm not sure how much I can say because of the strike right now. I'm not
I
sure
know.
exactly what I can say, but I graduated, and there was a really big blockbuster film that I had auditioned for and then did a screen test for. And I got to work with some of the greatest titans of the industry and made some really great friends while doing it. And that kind of set me up and opened the door for me to get the casting director on that movie. Cindy Tolan was just the sweetest human being, um, and she took care of me. I've never actually gotten to say thank you to her. So if by some way of the cosmos she sees this, Cindy.
If she sees that, then we are. Yeah, if she sees
Oh my
this,
god, yeah, oh my god, yeah. But she, literally, she, in an act of just artistic belief and kindness, changed the course of my life. She introduced me to my manager, who I love dearly, and takes such good care of me. And then my manager ultimately helped me find my agency. And
yeah,
so, because of those connections, I'm now represented like bi-coastally, New York, LA, and Atlanta.
yeah,
And
that's
so,
fantastic.
yeah, and I think through that, I ended up transitioning through like musical theater, and all the while I was doing all this musical theater stuff, I was slowly taking like I went back into like um I would say like old school New York uh like acting class.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I did like 2 more years of acting school after I graduated because I'd been out on some auditions and my agents basically said, "Hey, we think you would really benefit from doing this." So I did it. I had a blast. I started working with a woman, Joan Rosenfeld, and she just showed me what acting could be.
yeah.
And I
That's
had
cool.
another teacher, Maria Hubbard, who was kind of like she was like my audition coach and film guru, if you will. She's phenomenal, and I think the two really informed each other to the point I almost love doing film more than I do theater now. I think theater is where you really learn a craft, but I
Yeah,
think film is just so much fun.
yeah, it is. And I wish, because I got out of high school with film on my, I had my eyes on film. I was like, okay, those 4 years, I really haven't. I did one, no, two shows in college at KSU, but other than that, I really haven't explored the theater avenue as a performer very much.
You went to KSU? Did you did theater at KSU?
Yeah, I did. Well, first semester, so 09, 29, 2009, 2010.
We've got to
No,
connect on that
opposite.
because I'm sure the KSU theater community
Yeah,
is
oh, yeah.
so
I'm
small.
sure we know. Yeah,
I'm sure you and I would have loads to talk about outside of.
yeah,
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
definitely. No, no, no. Yeah, but no, it's cool. But other than that, like, I mean, and that was cool. But my eyes were on film. I kind of knew that's the direction I wanted to head. But it's crazy. I was sitting here thinking while you were, telling your trajectory. Because your story is just, I mean, it's like, and I hope this isn't offensive. I mean it in the best. It comes from a good place. But it's like the golden boy, like went to New York, had all these amazing teachers, and it's so great. But like I was sitting here thinking, like, man, mine was pretty much all Atlanta bred. Some great Atlanta, teachers, and there's some great talent in Atlanta. But I'm like, man, and then I started thinking that's what this whole conversation is about. And that's what I want this series to be about. Because
Yeah,
I started comparing
our
journeys,
journeys.
and while
Yeah,
they are so similar, there's so many different paths to get to the same place. Now
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
that also there's so many directions you can go with that statement, because obviously there's so much to be said about getting good coaching from people in New York and LA, because this circles back to the strike thing. Obviously, if you are a New York actor or an LA actor, obviously your negotiations are going to be different. But
You're right.
that kind of goes back to the whole SAG strike thing, which we'll get to
Right.
eventually.
Yeah, we'll
But
get there.
but yeah, no, no, no. But it was cool because I kind of just right out the gate of high school knew that film is what I wanted to on or focus towards. Now, Atlanta really still didn't have a big. I mean, film was growing in Atlanta at that point, so like stuff was coming
Right.
through sparingly. What really was a game changer, at least for me, was Vampire Diaries. from on the CW. Oh dang,
Right.
SAG. Sorry, SAG. A certain vampire show on a
Cut it,
certain.
cut it out, cut it out. We'll do it in
Um,
editing. We're gonna go back. What was the game changer for
I
you?
knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna happen eventually, but I guess oh well. But a certain vampire show on a
You were in
certain
this teen vampire drama
yeah.
series that no
Well,
one's ever heard of, right?
really, yeah. And I wasn't even in it. I had a buddy that was doing like extra work, and he said they needed PAs, and I ended up being a PA for like the first season on Vampire Diaries, and then through that ended up I looked like I was 12, so they ended up sticking me in all the high school scenes. So I ended up being an extra, and I was
Right.
like, you know what, there's more to this, and I knew that I wanted to I film, and then being there for a good solid year,
Uh-huh.
I was like, all right. So I said, it's time to cut out the PA work, and PAs are fantastic, but I knew that I wanted to
Yeah,
I
it's
something
amazing.
different.
Yeah.
Time to stop being PA, and it's time to stop being an extra. I got that out of my system, and so did that for a year on Vampire Diaries, and from that, do you know who Robert Pralgo is, or Rob Pralgo?
I don't think so.
So he's an actor in Atlanta, and pretty much anything that comes through Atlanta, just about he's in some degree, whether it be a day player or principal or top 5 on the call sheet, or he's in it to some extent. And so he was a main character on the first season of Vampire Diaries. He was one of the kids' dad, and I just said it again.
Yes, 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 yes,
This is
yes.
gonna be so hard.
It's
Don't
gonna be
kill me,
super
SAG.
hard. That's why a minute ago I was like,
All
yeah, I
right.
don't know what I can say right now, so I'm just
Yeah.
not going to. I'm gonna give
All
you.
right. So yeah. All right. So anyway, he was on that show, and he was giving classes out of his living room at the time, and he got wind that I was kind of wanting to get into the acting side of things, and so he was like, "Hey, buddy, start coming to my class on, I think it was Thursday nights at the time. It was 8 people at a time in his living room. Started at 7 p.m. and it went until whenever it ended, 1, 2 a.m. And that was really when I was like, all right, it's time to get an agent. It's time to start auditioning, and it's time to start getting a little bit more serious. I started going to different classes in Atlanta, and meeting casting directors here in Atlanta or the Southeast. Finn Cannon, Finn Cannon have been a huge, man, those are my guys. I think they've almost all of my bookings
I've been through King Cannon's office.
Finn Cannon, yeah. So shout out to them. So yeah, that was kind of how that one show I started on as a PA, and kind of it progressed me into realizing that it was time to get serious and buckle down. But yeah, as you were telling like your story, I was like, man, he's got all these cool New York names. But again, that's the whole point of this is, man, there's, like you said at the beginning, somebody could be picked off the street and like put in something that they rock. This like just from random Joe put in this role that they absolutely rock, and then I mean, there's their career start. So
Yeah.
there's no when somebody asks me how do I get started, it's like, man, I don't really know how to tell you to get started. I can tell you to get a headshot.
Because like,
and
I'm trying to find a way to like also. You were just like a movie recently came out that my friend was a huge fan of that franchise, and so I told him I was doing this interview with you, and I said, hey, do you recognize this face? And he said,
hopefully they wouldn't.
he did. He's also a huge TV and film guy.
Yeah, you
scared the crap out of people.
I mean, and that was like one of the coolest experiences, and like that's entering into territory where I wish we weren't. This is one of those moments where it's like
I wish we could say the name.
The strike is so like.
If you're watching this podcast for whatever reason and you like what we had to say, go look this man up. He is an awesome jump scare. I haven't seen it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. It's my mom hasn't either yet. She said she's gonna go, but she doesn't do. But
well, even if that is it. So I'm gonna hijack your interview for a second. Is it tough to ask people to go see it, especially because even if people are super big fans and they're super close to you, in that moment they're supposed to be terrible. Like there's nothing in them being like, I wonder if that's him. Like,
yeah. So what was the question? I'm sorry.
Have you found it with people who have seen the movie that because of the part that you play, and I assume all of the stuff that's on you, it's hard to be recognized?
So no, because I guess I've at least everybody that is around me, I've showed them and told them because I was in all the trailers and like all the promotional material. They really ran it into the ground, which I didn't know was going to be the case. So I pretty much told everybody, "Hey, that's me." So when that comes up, that's definitely
That's
me.
me.
And it's funny because when we were there, I was in makeup, and I guess I can say actors' names. That's not.
Yeah, you could say I'm.
Um,
Oh, you can just can't. We just can't talk about companies. We
yeah,
can talk
yeah.
about
So yeah,
actors, and
so
I'm pretty sure we can talk
Pat,
about casting directors, but I don't think we could talk about
yeah,
companies. Or I'm assuming we can also talk about the titles of films is where I get really iffy
yeah.
because
That's
I'm
where
like, okay, I'm supporting the Struck Company by saying the name
yeah,
of the movie, right?
it's one of those things. So yeah, but Patrick Wilson, I guess I can say his name.
You can
It was his
definitely say his name.
yeah, it was his directorial debut, which was super cool. But he was like, uh, the studios we were in, because they shot in New Jersey this film last summer, and they only came to Atlanta for 5 days for reshoots, pickups, and a few like add-ons. So this scene was added on last minute, and so they didn't have a full. It was a full soundstage. It was the old Tyler Perry Studios that we shot at.
Right.
But they didn't bring in a makeup trailer. They had like an old makeup room in the Tyler Perry Studios that we were using.
That's gotta feel
And
cool to walk into.
and yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But in fact, I mean, like Patrick Wilson didn't even he forewent a trailer himself. He had an office in the production office. He had his office and his desk. But anyway, so we uh were sharing a makeup room, and so I was getting all my stuff done. But side note, my cousin Brooklyn owns Heaven Sent Cupcakes in downtown Cartersville. So I stopped by on my way on into set. I shot for 2 days. So both days I stopped and got a dozen cupcakes from Heaven Sent and took them.
Of Heaven Sent.
And
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson loved Heaven Sent's red velvet cupcake. But anyway, I took cupcakes in. He brought me coffee. Like he got my Starbucks order. Super cool dude. And probably one of the coolest. And I've done a couple of like things where I, as you can say, have worked with somebody famous, but he's probably the coolest one. But
Can
where
I
I was
tell you
going with
that
that was,
I'm a huge fan of his. You know, he started like in musical theater.
and I know him from Phantom of the Opera.
Yep.
Um,
And I know him from before that from like Oklahoma and
was
Carousel.
he in Oklahoma? I didn't realize he was in Oklahoma and
He
Carousel.
was
See, I didn't
Curly
realize
in
that.
Oklahoma. I think the what's famously the Hugh Jackman production. He was also
Okay.
Curly in. I don't know if he was an understudy or later, but I found that performance online because I wanted to see him sing it because I'm such a big fan of his voice. I also saw his found the recordings of his Billy Bigelow, and
That's cool.
he did Brigadoon at New York City Center with a lot
Wow,
of
I know that.
people that I know, and I was just I
That's so
love
cool.
him, and because he came from musical theater and then went into film, it's kind of like just I think
Yeah,
it's so cool that you got to work with him. Even cooler that
yeah,
he loves that cupcake, that red velvet
that
cupcake.
was really cool. So,
Yeah.
and then really what sparked that story was uh, in the makeup trailer, or not trailer, makeup room in this instance. The I guess I can't say the name of the movie, but in the scene there's an MRI machine, and there's a doctor, and the doctor was played by an Atlanta actor named E. Roger Mitchell, I think is his name, and I may have messed that up. I've worked with him before. I've done a few like indies throughout the years with him, but he's actually on another major show currently, that's about some kids in a beach town that find some gold, and you've probably seen it. It's got 4 seasons now or 3 seasons.
It takes
The
place
young,
in what like one of the Carolinas.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
that one. Okay, cool.
yeah.
It
Anyway, he's one of
stars
those. Yeah, and
Jay
he's one of
Stokes and
the.
Madeline Klein. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the one. That's the one. So,
It's so weird. I don't know what we're allowed to say, man.
I know. But yeah, so the MRI or the doctor in that scene is I know him from that show as well. He was one of the kids' dad, Pope. Can I say his character name?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we
But
can see characters' names for sure.
so yeah, and but I've worked with him a few times, but it's been years. And so I was getting all the stuff done, and he came in. He had just finished filming some of his stuff, and he was coming in to get makeup like his regular makeup taken off. And he did. He recognized me, and I was halfway. I was like, "That's so cool that he recognizes me." But then also, I was like, "Oh man, he recognizes me. That's not good." Um, but no, so I mean, it was cool. It was a cool experience. But um, let's turn the tables on you, because you were in a show. So difficult. Oh, I wonder if I can do opposites. Historical hate. What's the opposite of historical and the opposite of hate? Or old hate. Old
Oh
hate.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So yes,
Okay.
I just recently watched that. And
Yes.
that's older, I know, and I
Yeah,
heard things in it,
it
but I've
took me a
never.
minute. I was like,
Sorry,
no,
old hate is probably
that's such a
better.
weird one because I like. So yes, I was a part of it. Originally, I had a larger role.
Oh,
Um,
dang.
for whatever reason, I think there was a director switch. There was maybe some friction on that show. Um, this is all hindsight. Take everything I say with a grain of
Yeah,
salt.
yeah,
I just know I had a scene with Julia, who I played her boyfriend. I'm not gonna say she played
yeah,
my boyfriend. And
yeah,
I had the scene with Julia, who was super sweet. We actually bonded because she was shooting another show on Alatoona Lake, and she heard that
yes,
I was from like the Marietta, Kennesaw area, and she was like, "Oh, do you know Lake
yeah,
Alatoona?" And I was like, "Better than you, I bet." Yeah.
yeah, yep.
Why do you know
That's
that
great.
lake?
Yeah,
She was super sweet, by the way, and very professional. It was January. We were in a rain machine. We were wearing clothes that were reminiscent of springtime. And so while I had like a hoodie and a jean jacket on, she was in just like a little shawl or something.
yeah,
Freezing, didn't complain about it at all. Super trooper.
yeah.
Um, and it was also really funny because like we filmed this scene. It was supposed to end like this. I'm pretty sure I can say this. That didn't sign like any NDA or anything. But anyway, it was
Yeah.
supposed to end like this. She and the older man in her office have a relationship. When he makes the move on her towards the end of the episode, she realizes that she just wants like fatherly, paternal attention, and she backsteps. He basically quits his job, I think, and then she decides to go on a date with a younger guy her age. So
Mhm.
that guy is me. My name was Brock, I think, on the show or something like that. And we had a great time, especially in the rain machine and with the clothes. And I actually passed. I was in New York 2 weeks ago, and I passed the location, and
Oh,
I
cool.
like walked through it, and without all the sets and everything, it looked super weird. Um, did we freeze? Did I lose you? Uh oh.
Nope.
Uh oh. Are we still here? Yeah, we're still waiting. Hopefully, it'll come back. Still recording. I'm not sure if anyone can see, but Joshua is completely frozen. There we
Oh,
go. Sorry. What was the
okay.
last thing you heard me say? Also, are you okay? It's storming like crazy here too.
Yeah, yeah. Let me get some light. I may have to. Let me get some light. Like I've got some light to turn on. Hold on. The power's still out,
You're
but
good.
let me see. Let's see. Wonder if I can turn.
Maybe near a window.
Yeah, let's see. Hey, that'll work. Um, cool. So
There we
part
go.
two, that was fun. Oh, now it's like just moody lighting. That's cool. Let me see if I got a. Hold on 1 second. Oh, that's my dog.
Hey, buddy.
So the first part of this will look super, like in front of a cool backdrop, and then we'll just.
It's okay. You'll have to forgive my backdrop as well, because I've been on
It's
the
all right.
road for like 6 weeks now, and I
Oh
did like
dang.
this is my two
Oh yeah,
week. Say what?
your dad was saying that your dad was saying something about you like found your. Well, we're record. I'll talk. We'll talk about that after when we're not recording, because that's kind
Yeah,
of not
absolutely.
anybody's. Also, I'll probably cut and I'll probably just I'll cut all this middle stuff out probably.
Yeah, no,
All right, cool.
all good. I completely trust your judgment when it comes to that. It should still be recording. I'm gonna stop it and start it again. There we go.
And it'll be, I guess. Hold on, I lost you. Jeez, I'm having issues. It'll um, it'll all be one file, correct? Like the.
Yeah, it'll all just be one file. I never lost service, so
That's
you
cool.
can. I'll send it to you. You can cut it
Cool.
out.
All right, so back up and running. I lost power.
Cool. What was the last
So
thing you heard? Yeah,
we were talking about the rain machine, and
the rain machine. Yeah, so we were in a rain machine. Julia Garner, who I was playing her boyfriend that day. She was super cool. Um, it was freezing cold, and the script was written in what I assume
yeah.
is LA, and we were filming in January on like just off the East River in New York in this little garden. And there was a bridge that we were supposed to run in out of the rain, and we were having this really romantic date. And like I said, she had this breakup with the older guy in her office, and she was trying to move on. That's why she was on this date with me. And then as I'm talking to her, I think like you just hear me fade into the background, and you see a man walk in out of the rain who looks eerily similar to the older man that she was dating. And I think in lieu, or like in the name of having like a happier ending, um, they cut that ending where you realize, I think, in that moment that she is still kind of in love. And so they got all this extra
Okay, yeah,
coverage of us, and that's what you see on the episode. But that was my like first
that's cool.
aired a job. I won't say my first job, but it's the first job I did that was put on to a streaming service or something like
Yeah, that was cool. So that brings up a question. Again, very prudent to what's going on currently, but
that.
residuals, because people love asking me like with Walking Dead, people love asking me like how much how much do you make off that? And it's like the conversation very quickly becomes the conversation that's being had publicly right now. Yeah, my daily rate was pretty cool. And even my first couple residual checks were pretty cool.
But after that,
Now, yeah, now I was in 2 episodes, barely. I think I had 5 lines total. So like, not to diminish my work, but
no, not at
as a
all.
as that
You've done incredible work. Yeah,
yeah, but as that size role, I don't expect to get crazy residuals. But then what's coming to light is people are starting to learn that these actors that are of higher caliber that have like put in so much time and work and love and effort into these shows
yeah,
that are streaming are not getting much more than you're getting as a co-star or a guest star.
yeah.
Um,
And you're figuring out like so for example, I think the majority of my projects I've been lucky in the sense the majority of them I think, yeah, have been network television.
yep.
So there's the residual agreement is a lot
Yeah.
nicer with
Also,
network television than it is with streaming services. in the sense that there is, I think, like a funding there to kind of keep it going. Um,
Yeah.
I heard a couple of people on TikTok and on YouTube and stuff talk this week because everybody's coming out kind of airing the dirty laundry. But I
Yeah.
think that the idea is that if you're an actor and you're a working actor, um, you shouldn't, especially if you're fifth or sixth on the call sheet, um, you shouldn't have to have multiple sources of other income just to live. You know, you've already beat the odds. You're already helping keep this machine going that is just a monster of a piece. You know, I'm so hard to say this without saying the names of drug companies, but you're a part of this system that makes monstrous amounts of money, and they just move all the time. And some of these shows are like revolving doors. And if you're lucky enough to stay in that rotation, you shouldn't need to also teach a group fitness class. You shouldn't, have to do this side hustle job remotely from your hotel room or wherever. Hold on. I think we stopped. Did you get
It
it?
said recording in progress.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It didn't give me like the deny or accept, but I guess that's because I've already accepted
I
it.
think it's because you've already done it and your IP addresses have already agreed or something. But
But
I
yes,
think
so
the
there was
crux of it all is just that, well, because where do I start, honestly?
yeah,
Um, so people keep saying Hollywood writers, Hollywood actors, and I think by saying Hollywood in their head, they mean like Margot
yeah,
Robbie and Matt Damon and like all of these really
yeah,
big A-list actors are on strike, and they are, but they're striking because the people on the lower rung, me, you, the crew members, everybody is on strike now because the people who are really helping keep the machine oiled and going are having to have multiple sources of income just to survive the year. We're not making enough to make our health insurance. So we have
yeah,
to find ways to make ends meet. Like I talked to my agents like a few maybe this time last year, and they were telling me they have older clients who have been with them for a really long time. And they've started to say things like, I don't understand why I'm not booking. I don't understand why this isn't happening. Because before streaming services, they said you had an actor and they went out on 50 auditions and they booked one and you could set your watch to
yep,
that. And I didn't live through that. This is just what I'm hearing
yeah,
and what they said to me personally. So they said, you have
yeah,
an actor who goes through that and then they do three jobs. So they go out on 150 auditions at maximum. They book three of those auditions, and those three auditions and residuals paid for their health insurance and their rent and their groceries. And
yep,
yeah, maybe they had to bust tables like for 2 or 3 months out of the year, but for the most part, they can make a living. And now you have CEOs making like 70 times what the normal worker makes, and you're saying that there's no
crazy.
right. That's it. That's an insane amount of wealth. I saw one a post the other day. Again, whether it's true or not, it's close enough for me. So here's what it said. It said, um, a Hollywood writer makes 75,000 a year. Bob Iger easily makes that in a day.
Yeah, I mean he makes that while he's using the bathroom. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
And you're sitting there going, I can't believe the tabloids right now are saying it's greedy, and it's a bit manipulative, like I said, because they keep saying Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. And what they don't realize is like, I work in Hollywood as much as the next guy. Like
yeah,
I'm by no means an A-list actor, but I do really well for myself. And in doing that well, you shouldn't have to have multiple. So I'm not even saying that it should be my main source of income, although it's been really kind to me so far. I
Yeah.
think that people who beat the odds in the way that we constantly have to do something not only that we love, but also that we believe benefits humanity in a way. I think those people should be rewarded with a livable wage. And I think
Mhm.
that's what it is. That's the bottom line. And because these streaming companies, how they're set up and how they're being monetized, they're not paying those. I don't know. Did you see the Squid Games thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I saw the
show
Squid. Oh wait,
that
I saw that show that is. Sorry, hold on.
lost you for a second. But what you were talking about Squid Games?
Um, we'll make this happen.
It's just a
Recording in
bad.
progress. I got it.
It's just a
Um,
bad storm, man. It's just a really
yeah,
really ugly storm outside.
yeah, yeah. It is. Um, in fact, am I still good with you on your end?
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're a little shaky, but
All right, cool.
we'll deal with that if it comes up. You know.
Yeah. Um, but cool. I thought of something else right before it froze again. Let me see. Let's get back into this thing.
Yeah.
But yes, describing the strike thing. I mean, that's been a whole nother, you know,
It's bad again.
it's such a hard thing to talk about, especially people that don't. That's where I was going. Especially people that are not in the industry in any way, shape, or form. It's so hard to explain kind of what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I
But on that, I, something I've experienced. This is kind of we're both from the same town. Also, I said that zombie show name a second ago. I realized, but it is what it is.
yeah. You're okay.
But being from the same town, have you? So I know that like for a long time it do what? Can you hear me?
Nah, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
Uh, um,
Something
do you
about
want
being from
to?
the same town,
Oh,
which we are.
so yeah. With us being from the same town, did you face any like when you told people that you were going to do this, like any adverse reaction from people? Like not necessarily your family, because I know your dad, and I know like I don't think that but like because I know when I started really going after it, it kind of stirred some pots. I know like a lot of people, they'd much rather me do the traditional thing. So I know, especially being from a small southern town, smaller, um, there was a little bit of adverse fight back, even from my,
Yeah,
people that are close to me to some extent.
yeah.
So what was your experience? I'm not saying like throw your family under the bus, but like what was your experience in that?
No,
Because
and honestly,
even I'll give you this really.
yeah, no, go on. I want to hear. What did you?
Okay. You're lagging a little bit. I think I'm lagging too, so there's a little bit of a delay. Um, but I mean, like doing Insidious, there was even a little bit of pushback.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, being Christian, I mean, that's a good topic of conversation. Being a Christian in this industry, Insidious, as you can imagine, is necessarily the most. It's not a Jesus film, and there was even a little bit of pushback from people that I know about doing that. Now there was also a lot of support. I can say that as well, but there was a little bit of the joking, not joking, like why would you do that kind of film thing? So have you had any instances where you had to take a job that you felt okay with, but people behind you said, I can't believe you do that.
Yeah.
So with Insidious, my personal conviction, I didn't feel anything about it. In fact, I've got, you know, I've got a cross tattoo, and one of the first things Patrick Wilson asked me was, what's the story behind your tattoo? And that was day one of meeting him. So like it really became an opportunity where I could kind of, I didn't minister to him, but or I didn't like, but I faced a little bit of pushback from people that are close to me. I already said the movie. Dad gummit. Christian, this is so hard. Doing a film
I
versus horror
wasn't gonna
film.
stop you. I really was.
I definitely, I know,
I
God.
figured you'd see it in post and just bleep it out.
If I can find a cool, man, I am dark. If I can find a cool like bleep thing, then I'll do that. But so yeah, what I guess the question being, have you had to face that like kind of
Yeah.
um pushback from people that are close to you from back home for just going into this industry, because it's not necessarily it's thought of as a pipe dream from a lot of people. And two, have you had to take a job that you didn't feel personally convicted about,
But other people
but
might
that
have.
you know yes, or that you're like
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
maybe people that you're close to, what's been your experience there?
Yeah. So I'll say this. I'll start off by saying I think no matter I have the most supportive family under the sun. Like, and a lot of
Yeah,
times they'll be very straightforward. They don't know how to support me because they don't always know what it is that I do. And, like the
yeah,
industry is a very foreign concept to them. I think if they could, lasso me the moon and pull it in and hand it to me on a silver platter, they would. But
yep.
even in the most well-meaning friends and family situation, there's always a separation of we don't really know what you do, and there's always fear of the unknown.
Hmm.
Like I'll tell you today, like I'm in callbacks for something right now, and like my dad was just like, "So do you think maybe?" And I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't know, like like I had no
Yeah,
idea. And I know to
yeah,
them sometimes it gets exciting, especially if it's like a cool thing, and other times they
yeah,
just like it's just so over their head that they are unenthusiastic about it. It never has to do with me getting the job or anything like that. I think it just has to do with like this particular job my dad is super interested in, and so his interest, I'm like, man, he really wants me to get this job for some reason, and it's just because
yeah,
probably he thinks it's cool. But even with
yeah.
that, like if you have friends and family members, we have that like actor brain where like I had a director, her name was Liesl Tommy. She directed Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic. She also directed The
The
Outsiders,
what? The
the
what?
Aretha Franklin biopic.
Oh, never mind.
And
I was just never mind.
oh yeah, the nothing. Yeah, she directed some really cool
No,
film and TV and some great theater, which I can say out loud.
yeah,
Yeah. By the way, be sure to send this to me so I can listen to it and make sure we didn't miss anything. We
yeah, definitely, definitely.
lose our eligibility.
Yeah, I got you.
We're not gonna do that. We are vehemently against all of the struck companies. I can't stress that enough. But
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Liesl directed The
Yeah.
Outsiders musical and some other really great TV and film stuff. Um, she said actors need to be reaffirmed twice in the same sentence. And I thought, oh my God, she
Mm.
gets it. She knows. And
Yeah,
she
that's good.
definitely handles her actors that way. Um, and I think because we have that actor brain and we are dealing with people all the time in our community, in our family, in our inner friend circles who aren't necessarily actors, they say things that in the back of our mind where they're like, do they not believe in me? Like, why don't they have faith in
Yeah,
me? And it has nothing to do with that because they're not thinking that way. So I'll
yeah,
preface everything I'm gonna say with that is that if you have friends and family who are not in the arts and they're not an actor and they don't have this actor lizard brain, then they are not
mhm,
thinking about whether or not they support you. I promise you they do. No, nobody is
yeah,
thinking like, oh, he's never gonna get it, she's never gonna get it. That's not what's happening. If it is happening, find you some better friends.
Yeah.
I think most times when it comes to things that involve some sense of discernment spiritually, I kind of just look at it and I say, you know what? So many doors have to open for me to not only get cast in this project, but to make it to the screen. You know how many shows and things I've been cast in or have done readings for that are incredible pieces that just
Didn't even
fell
make it.
through, whether it's because of
Yep.
COVID or funding or they're locked in a vault somewhere. I'll never see the light of day. So I just kind
Yeah.
of like surrender that and I say a little prayer and I'm just like, hey God, it's not like a job interview. I walk in, it's a good interview, I shake his hand, I start on Monday. I go through 3 rounds of
Yeah.
callbacks minimum. And then I have to meet the
Yep.
director and the producers. All of them have to sign off on me. They have to reach a mutual agreement with my agents. My
Yep.
manager then reviews that contract. If they don't like it, they send it back through for another round of processes so that when I show up on the first day of filming, there's a contract sitting in front of me that
Yep.
everybody is cool with. So I think there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people think big bag Hollywood is trying to pull the wool over your eyes, and that's just not the truth. I always
Yeah.
tell people, hey, wherever you think there's a lot of darkness, you have to realize that things don't exist out of balance. There is also a lot of light. So like
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh, you're walking in darkness. Well, first of all, I don't know if you read the same Bible that I read, but it said that I'm a child of God and that nothing has power over me lest I give it my power. And I'm not about to do that. So,
Yep.
um, that's one thing. I think one is a lot of fear of the unknown. Um, and I think two, it has less to do with you as an actor and what your decisions were. And I think, and this is a very Southern thing, um, I think it has to do with how they feel your actions make them.
Yeah. That's actually, yeah, that's very, very fair.
And I
So yeah.
don't think that's fair. I try to call that as much as I can. Because the truth is like you being in a horror film has as much potential to make a solid impact on somebody who needs to hear something because you have a cross tattoo. And that's a
Right.
beautiful example that I would tell everybody, especially because you're talking to Patrick Wilson. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's so cool. Like, had you not been that person on that set in that time, I'm not saying that Patrick Wilson has never heard that because I think he probably has. But maybe
Yeah.
there is somebody, maybe there is another PA, maybe there is somebody who I've been on sets plenty of time. Actually, the reason I went into theology and I studied theology because I got home, my dad and my brother are able to just go back and forth. I was
Right.
not. I kind of just was like,
Yeah.
yes, stuff.
Yeah.
And I would
Stuff.
say something so
Means.
they knew that I was kind of following along every once in a while. But I wanted to know, and I realized on a film set while talking to someone, oh man, I don't know my own stuff that I fully believe and have had experiences with as well as I think I do. And so I
Yeah.
was, man, I really need some tool because it wasn't like I was on set and somebody was like, well, blah, 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 and Jesus, blah, 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 and you're just a big dum dum. No,
Yeah.
I was in a position where somebody was like, I have these questions, and you seem like maybe you'd know. And I went, I would love
That's
to answer
awesome.
those for you, but I don't. And so I went out and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, if that ever happens again, it's literally in the Bible. That's my job is to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
this stuff is awesome, and here's why. And there's so much
Yeah.
countercultural stuff that we have to go through now that people don't realize, like, oh, when I read the Bible, I have to read it in historical context. I have to talk about the audience that it was written for, how it relates to the world around it in that time period. Because there is stuff that you just think, why is that here? and it really
Yeah.
does have significance. But you have to
Yep.
do the detective
Yeah.
work, and because we live in a world where things just kind of, and I know I'm getting off the topic a little bit, but when we live in a world where
No,
things are
you're good.
so Googleable, where everything is instant,
Yeah.
you know, you expect an immediate response, and sometimes, hey, you have to kind of dig for the information. Um, so yeah, I think people are more concerned about the fear of the unknown. I think people are concerned about how your actions make them look. And then I think lastly, they're probably concerned about your well-being. And when they are concerned about your well-being, you just have to reassure them, hey, I am a child of God as much as you, and there's nothing
Yep.
that I can do um, to refute that and
Yeah.
give my power over unless I give it over. And it's not like we're out here playing around with things we don't know about. And there are plenty of people out here playing around with things that they don't know about. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, they exist.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
but like not all those people are bad people. And some of those people need a you or a me to talk to when they have questions. And you know what? There's a difference between somebody who, like I said earlier, just wants to like yeah and bring you down and narc on you, than just
Yep.
somebody who genuinely has questions and is like, okay, but this about your faith, I'm not really sure about. Could you talk to me about that? And sometimes you say, yeah, I can. And sometimes you just go, and that I chalk up to faith. Um,
Yeah.
but that if you're not in that position like you were, I don't think that that conversation gets had. Who says that you're not supposed to be exactly where God opened the astronomical door for you to be? You know?
Right. Yeah. And you know, I'll give you another something cool about that experience too. Is we we did they came to Atlanta and did that small shoot for that film
Right.
early this year. Is April actually, just a few months ago. It was April. And it was around the time that my lightning.
Yeah.
It was
So
around
that.
that time that my taxes, yeah, my taxes were due. And
Right.
I mean, I wasn't like struggling necessarily, I wasn't hurting financially, but I was like, man, I owe a chunk of money this year to the IRS. Uh, so you know, typically with a film or television shoot, you're paid 3 to 4 weeks. Usually, it's about 3 weeks later ish,
Right.
give or take. Um, and man, they got me paid. Like, I got a check from my agent like a week later. Um, I got multiple paychecks
That's
from that
awesome.
job, but my first paycheck I got from that came like right a week later after wrapping, and it was to the penny the amount that I owed for my taxes. So my first paycheck from that film went ahead and paid my taxes that I owed to the IRS. And so it's those kind of things that I've kind of
That's
used that
so great.
example to a few people, and I was like, well, God can use whatever He wants to use. If He wants to use a horror movie, you know, I don't think that I'm not saying that horror movies are godly, but I'm saying that if he decides to use that, then he can use it as he sees fit, and he did. Um, but anyway, that was just a question I thought of earlier. I was like, I you know, I didn't know if you had any experiences of um,
Yeah.
situations where
I'll add one more thing. I think, and I'm just thinking about like the kid who's in high school who has big dreams and doesn't feel like maybe that's a possibility because they maybe do have the friends that kind of like, bring them down a bit. I think it's important to keep
yeah,
faith exists almost in a vacuum. It's a very delicate thing. And I heard like I think I want to say it was Furtick or Michael Todd or somebody say one time the best time to kill a king is before he comes into reign. And so if you have this
hmm,
small dream that you really believe in, go on and believe in it because nobody's going to do it for you. And there are plenty
yeah,
of people who, when you start to dream big dreams, it's I guess like scary to them because they do have like that. Hey, you got to get married, got to have the picket fence and the car, and you got to have the 9 to 5, and they don't really understand what you do. And so many people come up to me, and that does weigh on you a little bit. When people
yeah,
are constantly saying that to you. And then I go back to New York or LA, and I breathe this sigh of relief because there's not like an overwhelming expectation on me, and I'm able to do
Yeah.
stuff that makes me happy and function in my gifts. And I think that if you have those gifts, go on and develop them, go on and believe in yourself.
Amen.
Make that social circle, whether it be friends, family, community, whoever, just make it very small, and be very careful with who you trust your faith to.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good word because I
Yeah.
there when I first got started into all this, there were a actually hold on, I'm gonna grab a candle to light my face just a little
You're
bit.
good.
I'll be right back.
You're good. I'm gonna put us on pause.
I think can
There
you hear
you
me
go.
now?
I love the candle.
Oh, it's an ambiance thing, mood lighting. I don't know why I didn't think about that before. Um, what were we saying? I got distracted.
What were we talking about? We
I
were
don't
talking about
remember.
keeping faith close in your social
Oh
circle,
yes,
right?
no, yeah. That's exactly where I was at. So, um, when I first started, doing this, I don't know. I say 10 years ago. It was probably a little bit less, but when I started really actively going, after this, um, I was, you know, willing to help anybody. I was getting people meetings with my agent that friends that were like, hey, I want to do this. I was throwing meetings to people and you know trying to make my circle of trust as big as possible. And it came back to bite me. I mean, there was so many people who, and I know that it's not a you shouldn't ever do anything and expect something in return, but there's so many people that in this industry that I helped or got the meetings with an agent or whatnot, and then turned around and ghosted me, or that's happened a few times. Completely disappeared, and so that's a lesson that I learned pretty early on was you do have to keep your circle pretty tight.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's even what you're talking about, but it just sparked in my brain whenever you said that.
No, yeah,
I've kind of learned. I've really learned to keep, especially within the industry, and you can. And now I've really developed almost a sixth sense about it.
losing you a little bit.
You talk to somebody within the industry, but for a while there, I was just help. I guess I was too trusting at first for a while, and so there were several people who one guy, I went to high school with him, and he won't see this, but even if he does, I'm not saying names. But one guy I went to high school with, we were decent friends, and he hit me up in college, and he was like, "Hey, Josh, I want to get into this acting thing," and he was good. I had seen him do a couple of short films, or I think he had done a short film or two, and he was a good actor. And I got him a meeting with my agent. He got signed. You know, straight. I don't think we work as friends. So I see him. He pops up in but that was again one of those. I don't think you need to close yourself off, but I definitely think you need to keep your circle
Right.
small. Of you know,
Well,
um,
even like I'm working on like writing a couple of scripts, and I'm helping pitch a couple of scripts right now. And I'm really careful about who I give the ideas to these scenes and whatnot to.
oh yeah,
I have a really great writing partner, is a guy named Tucker Hammonds, who I went to high school with, and then he went on to
hmm,
go to school for theater and creative writing and communications, and it's been my best friend for forever.
that's
Um,
cool.
and we have this thing about like telling people about this project that we're working on, because we don't want people to want to read it. We don't want people to
Yeah,
pitch for it, because the second you start to conceptualize something with other people, even people close to you, they're going to say something like, I don't know. And that's all the word it takes to just kind of like start that seed of
yeah,
doubt. And so we keep it
yep,
pretty under lock and key, so like
yeah.
if you're somebody who
You
thinks
have
like,
to.
oh, I could be a singer, and the second you like share that with somebody, they go, bro, you can't sing. If somebody would have said that to me, who's to say I would have ever auditioned for the school musical in high school?
Yep, the seeds planted. Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
that's all it takes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my advice.
Okay. Well, okay, so that kind of got a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is we're going to go a little bit lighter.
Right.
But I was thinking about this earlier because I was somebody was asking me about auditions, and this will kind of loop us around to Skype and Zoom auditions. So
Oh, okay,
that we
cool.
talked about
Love it.
earlier.
Losing it.
But, have you ever had an audition and the casting director gave? Uh, there was a casting director in Atlanta that I went in for, and it was for a movie, and I think it was like a PG-13 movie, but I was a good kid. I was a goody goody. I didn't cuss, didn't do anything, and the sides had me cussing, and the casting director, and it's really rare that you get, especially with tapes, but even in person, it's really rare that you get this kind of feedback. But she told me at the end of the audition, she said, "I don't think this is for you." So I left knowing I didn't get it, which is rare, as you know.
Right.
But she said, "I don't think this is for you." She said, "You need to go home and practice cussing in the mirror because you just don't sound natural when you say these words." And so that was I went home and practiced cussing. Um,
Ah,
but I don't know. Have you had any
that's
auditions
gorgeous.
like where? I mean, yeah,
Now, have there been, so rephrase the question
but
for me one more?
so have you had any auditions? I guess like that stuck out. That just like I don't know, just any fun audition stories. Like I just happened to think about that one earlier today,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
just any.
So I'll tell you one. Like I said, I had a really great manager and agent. And they always take really great care of me. And when I was first signed and started out, they took me to breakfast and they gave me this whole spiel and were so great. And then afterwards, at the very end, they said, "Is there anything that you haven't gotten an audition for that you really want?" And this is, I think I'd already had some momentum going, and I hadn't been in for this office for this how should we say, a young superheroes group of super individuals.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
okay, cool. It was new, it was edgy, um, than in the past, and I wanted to be a part of it, or at least audition.
yeah.
So the next Monday rolls around and they got me one. And I go in and I did this audition. It was in New York City. And my coach and everybody else had already said, "Oh, you're going in for this casting director who I'm going to preface this story with saying I would run through a brick wall for this woman now." But
Okay.
they were like, "Just so you know, she's going to try to scare you." And she is a bit intimidating. Um, and I've had this happen a couple of times, but never to this degree. And I went in for this office. I went in for this show, and I did this audition. And the first round, I got through the scene. You can tell when they're vibing it or not.
Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
they just looked at me and said, "I hate this on you." And I went, "Okay." I didn't expect that visceral response. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was that bad. And
Yeah.
so they said, "Go out in the hall. You have a backpack, right? Okay, go out in the hall, get your backpack, come back in, maybe like do something. You're at your locker, in the hallway, just to give me something to do." Might I preface, she changed the setting of the scene in that sentence. I was like, "Oh, but
Yeah.
I'm in a boys' locker room." She was like, "Ah, we're gonna do it in the hallway." And I was like, "Okay." Yeah, so I did it, and I finished the second go where I'm fooling around with the backpack, and they just said, "I still hate this on you. Good try though." And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're frozen or not.
Am I?
You are on my screen, but if you can still hear me, it's recording, and that's all that matters.
I guess yeah.
Cool. Okay. So she says, uh-oh. Now I'm losing you vocally. Can you hear me? There we are.
Okay.
We're back. So
Well,
anyway, I do the second pass of the scene. It doesn't go well. And on the way out of the room,
I can hear you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can hear you.
Not going well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Am I still frozen?
No, you're not frozen. I can see and hear you. Can you see and hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Awesome. Okay, so on the way out of the room, I did the second pass of the scene. They turn and look at me and goes, "By the way, did you mean to do that in a southern accent?" I did not. And so
Oh.
I went, "No." And they said, "Okay, just I had to make sure in case it was like a character choice." And I
Dang.
just kind of like turned around and in a very cinematic way just went, I had another friend who was an actress who's on the show. I can't say her name is Hanako Greensmith. She was
Yeah.
also auditioning for the same show that day. Um, no,
Uh-huh.
actually, if I remember right, she was auditioning for another superhero teen show. Um, that way, no one here knows who it is. But she was auditioning for, and I just kind of looked at her and went, like it didn't go well. And then I walked out and I called my agent and I was like, "Thank you so much for getting this for me." I
Yeah.
don't think I should go back in for a while. And then I did end up going back in like 2 months later. That went super well, and I've been back in many times since. So it's been great. A great connection to have. That was probably the worst one in person. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to talk
Yeah.
Zoom, I had one a few months ago that was really bad.
Yeah.
I
Zoom is rough. Zoom is bad. Obviously, I suck at Zoom, as tonight has shown. I don't know why. I just never jived with Zoom. I just like me and Zoom don't mix. We don't. I could like StreamYard. I practiced with StreamYard. That's what sucks, man. I was ready for StreamYard, but me and Zoom just don't mix, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had some rough Zoom callbacks. But yeah, go ahead. What was your
Yeah,
specific
so
one?
let's start by explaining to everyone that a lot of times you open this audition and it's with somebody who is much older. As you can see, I'm
Mhm.
pretty technologically savvy and I have a hard time with Zoom sometimes. So there are people that I would imagine aren't as technologically savvy, and even if they are, you enter the room, they let you into like the call, and you're
Right.
looking at
Yeah.
like 10 black squares as if it was a movie about nuclear apocalypse, and that's the board of the world deciding
Yeah.
what to do. And you're sitting there and you go, "Hey,
Yep.
can you hear me? Great. Let's get started." And
Yep.
it's just like this awkward moment. And then if you're lucky enough to have good internet connection, then you have to say, "Okay, yeah, let's get started. Uh who am I reading with?" And you're like pretend looking as if you can't see all of them already.
Yep.
And so the other thing is like usually when you do a Zoom callback, it's because you've sent in a really good tape. But the thing about taping
Yeah.
is you can send in sometimes multiple takes, which is what happened to me a couple of months ago. I sent in 2 takes of the same scene. It
I know
was
where this is going.
different takes on the character. And I had done it was a few scenes, but there was one scene, it was the beginning scene in particular. I did very drastic different takes. And it was a guy fighting with his girlfriend. One guy was a little more understanding of the situation, and the other guy was not. And so
Yeah.
I called my agent when I got the producer session. So I'm meeting the director and the producers to see if I'm coming onto this movie. And they just said, yeah, yeah, blah 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 blah. What I'd said, what is the what take did they like? So I know how to gear the call back from the get go.
Yeah.
And so I ended up talking on the phone to the casting director, and to my dismay, to her dismay, I got almost an answer to my question about which take. And it was really what I picked up on was like it was a blend. That was my misinterpretation. I'm so sorry if for some reason any of these people see this. I did the
Oh
first
no.
take of the scene as like the nicest, most understanding guy who was kind of like frustrated on the inside but keeping face. And I finished the scene and the director looks at me over Zoom and says, "So do you have any questions about this scene?" And it almost felt like, in high school when you had that teacher that liked you that would look over your shoulder and be like, when you were like writing out the
Yeah.
wrong answer. That's what it felt like. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I can't erase my answer. And I did have lots of questions because the take that I was doing didn't feel right, didn't seem right. And so I was like, but you're trying to do what they want you to do. So good lesson, just do what you know is right.
Yeah.
But that's a
Trust your
different
gut.
conversation. But anyway, I ended up talking to the writer. The questions I had, it sparked good conversation, and I was like, oh, I recovered it. And then when it came time for me to do what might have been a second take, the director was just like, yeah, all right, let's go on and do the next scene. And I knew that I'd blown it. But
Yeah.
there's always that just like part of you that tries to hold on to like every good morsel of what happens in a room because you're like, oh, I hope it
Yep.
wasn't that bad. Because maybe there
Yeah.
is the chance that you still get it, or they pick their first guy and that guy actually booked something the day before and you're number two. So, you get called
Yeah.
up and it doesn't matter, it pays the same and you still get to do it and have a great time. So you cling to that. But yeah, those were the two I think worst audition experiences. Um Other than some just like Broadway dance call stuff that I've had to do. And
Ooh.
that's another realm of embarrassing. So
Yeah.
um I was in one for a musical one time.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine.
they were like, "All right, if you don't have a triple pirouette," and
Yeah.
I was like, "Cool, so bye." And this is
I,
before I was represented or anything. And I wasn't like I didn't have agents to be like, "So, the dance in this show, like he's a
yeah.
movie." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, now I don't have to do that so much, but dancing definitely terrifies me. I feel like I look like a chicken running around,
Yeah.
compared to like some of the most graceful human beings on the planet who are really, really, really awesome and talented.
Right. When you start getting into that dance realm, I mean, that's a whole nother world. I mean,
Oh,
I'm not very coordinated. I'm not a dancer. Yeah, like I said, I went to Woodland, and part of when I went to Woodland, part of the prerequisite to be in certain theatrical groups was you had to be in dance. And I don't know, like, I don't know how I didn't get kicked out of the theater program. I mean, because I could not dance. I mean, I
I
really,
struggled
so
so much
I
with
am
it,
not a
man.
dancer. But
I struggled so much with dance. I still do.
yeah,
I
but
got better at it in college when I did it every day. And
yeah,
it didn't scare me then. And now that I'm like out of practice again, I'm like, man, I should
right.
get back into a class, but I'm not
Yeah. Another thing I love too with like taped auditions is, and I'm really not trying to throw shade at casting directors, but I love getting and I don't it hasn't been happening as much lately, but used to. It was awful about happened all the time. for like one specific audition that I got one time for a TV show. On I think it was on CW, but it was characters running through the woods, trips, falls over a bear
what
trap,
show was
rolls on his back.
what was it for?
Some show on a
Some
did I say
show
it?
on that teen network that people love.
Yes, 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 yes. On
Yeah,
some network.
cool.
Sorry,
Cut that.
some show. I got. But yeah, I had an audition for a show, and it was character runs through the woods, trips over a bear trap, breaks his ankle, rolls over, gets in a fist fight, and then has all this dialogue. But this full scene, like the dialogue was happening during the fist fight, and I understand the point of like what cat like I understand that I don't I'm not entirely positive. You could probably shed some light on this. I guess casting chooses what part of the sides or what to send as the audition for the first pass of tapes.
You would think.
But
Yeah.
if it's not, yeah, well, if it's not casting, then I assume production chooses it for a reason. So I understand that there's a reason behind it. But man,
Right, it's there.
then
Yeah.
also they don't want you to move too much. They want you to stay in frame. They want
Right.
don't so I don't think people. I love auditioning, but
So
I don't
do
think people realize that
It's
the
my favorite.
It is, but like there's so much between the audition instructions. Now I will say, well, what I was getting at with that was I just love when you get crazy instructions in the sides, but like you're confined to the frame of a camera. But also that makes it kind of fun sometimes. You get creative. Also, something I've learned with auditioning as of the last couple of years is like you don't have to. For so long, I was trying to make it too cookie cutter or too confined,
Right.
and I've started realizing I don't have to. I mean, if I go out of frame for a second, I go out of frame for a second. If I
It's
go
so
out of
much
focus
more
for a second because I
fun.
lean
Yeah.
forward, yeah. And but so that, I mean, but yeah, I don't think that people realize all of the stuff that goes into auditioning, even tapes. And I know there's a real conversation happening within the acting community about self tapes versus in person, and of course, in person is
Yeah.
amazing, and that's preferred. In person, you can give you feel the casting director, the casting director can feel you. There's that interaction.
Right.
But there is a beauty to self tapes. I don't hate self tapes. Self tapes get crapped on so much, and I get it, but also like there's such a luxury to them because you know I can do it where I want to. I'm in the comfort of my home, and I don't care how many times, auditioning, I get nervous. I mean, like give me the role, book me the role, and put me on set, and I won't have a single nerve for whatever reason.
Yep.
But I'm not a great test taker. So put me in a room with a casting director, and before that, let's add to that you're going to sit me in a waiting room with 20 or 30 other people that are good, and actually, I probably know of some of them.
Right.
I'm ready to throw up. So I enjoy taping. Taping and I are friends. I'm more comfortable. I can do as many takes as I want. I can experiment with the takes. If I did something that I don't like, I can redo it. I think there's a beauty to taping that, and it gets, I don't know. The conversation here recently has been, a lot of anti-taping. But I say I think that there's some merit to being in the casting, in the room with the casting director, of course. But when it comes to self tapes, I'm not opposed to them. I don't get mad about them.
It's definitely a preference. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I do tend to think that I psych myself out in person audition. I stutter. I stutter when I'm trying to think of words. I'm stuttering right now. So when I get nervous, dude, my stutter is like, man, it sucks. So, and that's something that like acting has helped me overcome. But I'm just not the best in-person auditioner. So I'm not opposed to self tapes, but by any means.
The opposite way around. I love meeting. I thrive on people. So
well, I think that's most actors. I think that's a very common. I think that's common, which I think is why so many people are mad about self tapes right now because self tapes have become so prevalent. And again, it is cool to go in person because the casting director does get to know you,
right?
And that is cool.
Yeah, that's a really fun feeling that I miss the human connection that I get to have like 30 seconds
Yeah.
before I'm about to do it. And
Yeah.
especially if it's somebody like I mentioned that casting director earlier,
Yeah.
where I completely flubbed. They really gave me what for, and then now to see the relationship progress, I walk into the office, the assistant knows who I am. They come out
Yeah.
of the room, Christian, and they know you, you know them,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
that's just like it makes it more like it is on set because um
Yeah.
I have been fortunate with the people that I have been paired with, Spielberg, Dan Futterman, Liesl Tommy,
Yeah.
Adam Rapp, these awesome, awesome writers, directors, actors, and uh, I think when you're working with somebody on that level, they know how to collaborate in an amazing
Yeah.
way. And so I think the only thing, because I also love self taping, I love having multiple takes. I love doing it in my room. You can see my light right back there. Like I love this.
Yeah. I was
It's
using
maybe
my
one
light
of
earlier.
yeah, I love it. It's maybe one of my
Yeah.
favorite things on planet Earth. Um, but I also think when I miss that human connection, then it becomes like I'm not collaborating with anybody and
That's
I'm
true.
collaborating. Um,
Yeah.
and I also admit there's a bit of like, yeah, you have to sit in that waiting room. But some of those people are your friends, like I miss getting to see
Yeah.
people that I only really got to
That
hang
is true.
with in waiting rooms and stuff. And they were all like guys who were a different flavor of me, like we
Yeah.
all could wear each other's clothes if we needed to. But it was
Yeah.
that was like a little community that you miss too. It really is. I miss it, but I
Yeah.
also don't mind the
That's true.
selfie. I think we as a community need to get better at the Zoom thing, though. I'm not gonna knock that. We Zoom callbacks, they are an art form
Oh
in
yeah.
their
No,
own right.
definitely.
In their own right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that being said,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people recognize that and try to make it as easy as possible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess we can end this thing if you want to.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Sorry that it's been, I ended up like having to,
No, it's good. It's
go
what it is,
all,
man. It was a bit of an adventure, and I enjoyed that.
but cool. Well, when do you go back to New York?
Sunday.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm there for. Uh-oh. You're cutting out. What'd you say?
Then
I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear a thing you're saying.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're good.
Okay, cool. Anyway, I just said safe travels, safe travels back to New York. This thing's gonna be fun to cut together. We'll see. I might like do like a few different like segments. I might like do like a part one and
Maybe,
part two,
maybe
or like a
do segments. Find some. If I were you, I'd find some fun like sound to put over
yeah.
all the flubs that we had.
Yeah, I'll have fun with this. I'll definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. It's been fun.
Dude, it's been so much fun. Thank
Yeah,
you for thinking of me for this as well. Yeah, I had
yeah, yeah. No,
it was an awesome conversation.
cool. Yeah, I was great. I needed that. Like, it's cool to, again. That's the point of this. It's cool to have that interaction and just
Yeah,
bounce ideas and bounce experiences off each other. So,
sure.
well, cool. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, dude, it's good to talk to you. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
See ya.